For over 30 years, investigative journalist George Knapp has fearlessly taken on the biggest mysteries, crimes, and scandals.
Tonight, we examine a few additional UFO cases.
From the Las Vegas mob,
the murder of Alan Dorfman was never solved, nor was the bombing of Frank Rosenthal's car.
To strange phenomena in the sky.
There is some kind of a phenomenon here that can't just be written off.
Covering it all just the same.
I've always approached it as a news story. It's not my religion. It's not a belief. I don't know what to believe even now.
Now News Nation is bringing you unprecedented access to his archives that date back decades, and how his life's work still influences the conversation on UFOs to this day.
36 years later, I'm still trying to figure it out. I was so cocky in the beginning. Well, this field is a mess. This is just, 95% of this stuff is nonsense, and it's explainable, it's prosaic. And I figured, well, look, what this topic needs is a good reporter. I'll have this all whipped into shape in 6 months. And of course, that was ridiculously optimistic.
6 months turned into a 36-year Las Vegas career for investigative reporter George Knapp. Did you have any interesting meetings with anyone UFO related around here? Do you go to any certain restaurants or?
All of them. The Pepper Mill, where we grabbed lunch, that was like my office annex. I would meet all kinds of people from Area 51 there.
George helped reveal the very existence of Area 51 through his interviews with Bob Lazar.
Tonight we're going to delve a little deeper into the subject with the man who was the impetus for our reports in the first place, Bob Lazar. Bob, good to have you here. A thumbnail sketch of yourself for those who might not be familiar with your background.
Lazar was a young scientist who claimed to work at the secret base called Area 51 near Groom Lake, in an especially hidden area called S4, where Lazar claimed crashed UFOs were stored.
Actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs. This came from somewhere else. As bizarre as that is to believe, but it's there. I saw it. I know what the current state of the art is in physics, and it can't be done.
This is one of George's reports from 1989 about what exactly Lazar says he saw.
According to Lazar, his employer was the United States Navy. He says he and other government employees would gather near EG&G, fly to Groom Lake, then a very few people would get into a bus with blacked out or no windows and drive to S4. When you get off the bus, what do you see?
It's a very interesting building. It's got a slope of probably about 30 degrees, which are hangar doors. And it has textured paint on it, but it looks like sand. It's made to look like the side of the mountain that it's in, whether it's to disguise it from satellite photographs or what.
He says he was never told exactly what he'd be working on, but figured it had something to do with advanced propulsion. On his first day, he was told to read a series of briefings and immediately realized how advanced the propulsion was.
The power source is an antimatter reactor. They run gravity amplifiers. There's actually 2 parts to the drive mechanism. It's a bizarre technology. There's no physical hookup between any of the systems in there. They use gravity as a wave, using waveguides, almost like microwaves.
It took a while, Lazar says, before he actually saw one of the flying discs. However, there were hints everywhere.
Right, they had a poster, and it looked like a commercial poster almost, like it was lithographed and you could buy it at a Kmart or something. But they were all over the place, and it had the disc that I coined the term the sport model was lifted off the ground about 3 feet at Area S4 on the dry lake there, and the caption on the bottom said "They're here," and those are just all over the place.
Later, he got to see the real thing.
When I was let in, it was the first time I saw the sport model in the hangar sitting down, and I was told they could have walked me in the front door, but they purposely wanted to walk me by it. I was told not to say anything and just keep my eyes forward and walk past the disc into the office area. And I did, and as we went by it, I just kind of stuck my hands on it just to run it alongside the thing, and that was about the smallest time. After that, I got to see it actually lift off the ground and operate.
But you also, in between that, you saw more than one.
Yeah. The hangars are all connected together, and there are large bay doors between each one. And there were 9 total that I saw, each one being different. Like they had the assortment pack.
One of the 9 flying discs he says he saw at the base, which was designated S4, looks exactly like this UFO photographed in Europe. Lazar called it the sport model.
I gave everything simple names. There's the top hat one, and the Jello mold, and the sport model operated without any hitches at all. I mean, it looked new. if I know what a new flying saucer looks like. One of them looked like it was hit with some sort of projectile.
Even before he saw the sport model operate, Lazar says, he suspected that the ship came from somewhere else. The realization slapped him in the face the first time he glimpsed the inside of the disc.
I got to look inside, and it had really small chairs, and I think that was the first confirmation I had. That was just a shocking thing, because every time before that I was able to label it, well, this is just a little advance that a group of scientists had formed, and they're keeping it secret, and yeah, we could have built a big disc like that, that's no problem, and we could have adapted these to make it fly, but why does it have little furniture inside, essentially little seats, and things began to click together just all too fast.
A few of the discs had been completely dismantled to find out how they worked, Lazar says, but others were fully operational.
The bottom of it glowed blue and began to hiss like high voltage does on a round sphere. It's my impression that the reason that they're round and have no sharp edges is to contain the high voltage. Like if you've seen in high voltage systems, insulators, things are round or else you get a corona discharge. In either case, it began to hiss as in high voltage, and it lifted off the ground quietly, except with that little hiss in the background, and then that stopped as soon as it reached about 20, 30 feet.
Lazar's interview with George got attention far beyond Las Vegas.
早速この番組のプロデューサージョージ・ナップ氏に会見した。
Suddenly, people around the world were paying attention to it. There was something called Paranet that was transcribing every piece as it aired, and then they'd send it all over the world via this fledgling technology called the internet. There were people dubbing it off and then showing it in movie theaters and charging admission to it. We got inquiries from all over the world, other media everywhere. When that Lazar part of the story broke in episode 5, 6, and 7, man, it went to a different level.
Lazar was credible enough for the Nippon TV network. Nippon devoted 2 hours of prime time to a special on Lazar and UFOs in March.
Lazar was invited to go to Japan to interview with reporters there, but along with all the attention came disturbing threats.
The day we were supposed to go, had tickets in hand, even went down and bought yen down at the currency exchange. We got threatening phone calls. I mean, that basically said, you'll never make it back here. So we really sat down and just thought, how important really is the interview, and we didn't go.
Lazar told George that security was tight and that fear and intimidation was used as a brainwashing tool.
It did everything but physically hurt me.
Put a gun to your head?
Yeah.
And said what? Actually put a gun to your head?
Well, they did that even in the original security briefings. They had guards there with M16s, and guys slamming their finger into my chest, screaming in my ear, some people pointing weapons at me. Like I said, it's not a good place to work.
When you came out with the series and then the special, was there pushback?
Yeah, well, there was. And during the making of there was pushback. We were followed. Me, Lazar, a couple of others of us. I know it's hard to believe that they would go to that trouble. But they knew I was working with him. They knew what I was digging into. They would go to his house when he wasn't there, open up the doors and windows, write stuff on his blackboard, move things around, just to mess with his head. He went to the gym one time with a friend of his. He was really getting kind of panicky about the whole thing. He has a gun. He had an Uzi in his car for self-protection. He goes into the gym, has a workout, comes out an hour later. The doors of the car are open. The windows are rolled down. The Uzi, which had been in a glove box, was there sitting on the front seat. They were just letting him know that they're watching him.
Coming up,